Okay, it looks like we're streaming, and hopefully the audio is okay. Those who are joining me right now probably are not watching the live stream just yet because YouTube has not told me that it's streaming, but thanks for joining. The Bucs lose, another heartbreaker yet again, so let's all vent together. In case you don't know me, in case you haven't been a part of this channel, my name is Corey Draper, and this is the Play Reaction. This is my channel where it started out as NFL, now it's kind of just gone to Bucs, just simply because I don't have the time to do the in-studio segments to the level that I want to do them because I don't have time. And I'm a Bucs fan, so I figured I would turn this into a Bucs reaction channel, at least for the time being. Hopefully there will be more studio stuff a little bit later on, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I see a couple of you, I think, are trickling in, but anyway, so this is just the live game reaction of the Bucs losing yet again and losing at the end yet again, doing just enough to blow it yet again. And I don't know. I am annoyed, and I am. Hold on a second. This is saying that the video is interrupted, so let me try. Can you let me know in the chat, guys, if you can see me? This says that it is interrupted. Let me see if I can reboot this. Okay. Okay, I see you guys. All right. Sorry about that. So, yeah, so welcome, guys. We're all sad. We're all pissed, probably. It was a very sad day for really the offense, the defense. I mean, it was very much a tug of war. There's really not one unit to blame this time. The defense did well when it could. The offense did well when it could, even in spite of the 5 turnovers. So it's just the way the season has gone. Honestly, it is indicative of I call this the Murphy's Law season, because whatever could go wrong has gone wrong this season. If you remember, we started with all the kicking problems, and then the defense was bad, and then the offense was bad, and then Jameis got hurt, and we kept losing these close games because the ball didn't bounce our way, and this was another one. In spite of all the turnovers and everything, we still had a chance in this one, and we blew it yet again. So I see a few of you are in the chat and are live again. I just wanted to say, hey, once again, Mr. Bucs Nation, good to see you. This Dinosaur, Adrian, good to see you guys. And yeah, this one's rough. This one's really rough. Real quick, just wanted to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, a shout out to those of you who are joining me from Reddit. If you guys don't go to the Reddit, the Bucs subreddit, you should. It's reddit.com/r/Buccaneers, and there's a bunch of really passionate fans there. We're kind of like a family, especially in these tough times. It's very nice to have people to have a shoulder to lean on, or also to vent our frustrations with, or to scream about how much this team breaks our heart, which has happened a lot in the last decade. So check it out, guys. And again, remember to subscribe to this channel. You can also follow me on Twitter at the Play Reaction. But okay, so let's just get things started here. Okay, I'm still working on the motion graphics stuff here with a live stream, but hopefully that wasn't too loud or too gross. So I will start off with my main takeaways. Number one, it was an ugly game, very ugly game. I know some of you agree with me right now in the chat room. The entire team played with mistakes, but they still fought hard. And they also farted. I brain farted a lot. They still fought hard, and I think this team is. There's been a lot of questioning of this team's heart, and I think this team is showing you what kind of heart they actually have. We have seen in past coaches that this team has given up when it was clear we were out of the playoffs, and yet this team still has fought hard. to put us in winning position at the end of the game, and we just keep falling just short. That is different than what we saw at the end of Gruden's year, last year, at the end of Raheem Morris's last year, at the end of Greg Schiano's last year. So does that mean we should keep Koetter? I don't know. But I think we should take heart, and really, it gives me hope for future years because this team is still super young and they still are fighting, man. And I think this shows great heart and great tenacity. Another thing I noticed is that this offense just looks better with Jameis. And yes, there were a lot of turnovers, but this offense just looks better and more exciting, and the tempo is better, and they look better with Jameis. I know a lot of you wanted us to bench Jameis to save him, but he's growing still, and I think he still needs to be out there. And this was yet another growing period for him in spite of all the turnovers. Another thing I wanted to point out is that Doug Martin started, and that was kind of controversial for some of you guys. Doug Martin looked good until that fumble, and it actually kind of upset me that we benched him for the rest of the game because of that fumble. Yes, it was his fault. He carried the ball too low, and maybe that was the last straw. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but we're not keeping Martin after this year, so it makes sense to me to just go ahead and bench him and play Peyton, who's playing well. But I will maintain that Doug Martin is the most talented back on this team, and I think he showed it at the beginning of this game until the fumble. And I'll just leave it at that. You guys probably disagree with me. The defense was infuriating, but as always, they still fought. Even with McCoy out, I thought once Gerald was out of the game, I thought it was over and this would be a Minnesota-esque kind of game, but they still fought. However, Brent Grimes, to me, I don't know if you guys noticed this, let me know if you did. Brent Grimes looks like he was just there for his paycheck. I don't know if I noticed this in earlier games. I know Chris Fisher, some of you guys who are hardcore fans know him from Bucs Brief, which was a former Bucs podcast. He said that Grimes has looked like that a lot this year. This is the first game I noticed. Even with his interception, he looked like he was just, he looked uninspired. He looked like he was just collecting his paycheck. I don't know if there's more to say. I don't know if you guys got that feeling. The last thing is I want to say is that these last 3 games coming up are really going to show you whether or not this team wants Dirk to stay. If they keep fighting for him, maybe we still give him another chance. I think this team is still fighting. They still are playing for pride. They're still frustrated, but they're still getting results. They're just coming short because, once again, this year has been the year of Murphy's Law. We just keep doing, think about that catch at the very, very end. I think it was Golden Tate, and Ryan Smith was up on him, and he juggled the catch and barely caught it. If he had missed that catch, it would have been much more difficult field goal, and things might have been different. So just things like that, it just seems like we're always just short, and that's just how the season has been. So what do you guys think? I'm going to go over to the chat room here and see what you guys are talking about. Fade Innis, you said that you can't blame every loss on Jameis. I agree. Jameis actually looked good. Some of you may not agree with me on this, but I think he looked good. He made some bad decisions, of course. He fumbled, making a bad decision, of course. But he looked good, and he fought this team back to a tie ball game. And a couple of you were out on Twitter saying, hey, it's time to talk about how Jameis is a bad quarterback. Jameis is not a bad quarterback. With good coaching and with a good offensive line, Jameis, the sky is the limit, and I still believe that. Here's a question I have for you guys. Should we keep losing? Are you guys in the camp of should we just keep losing because it will help our draft stock? That's something that is always in play whenever you have a bad year like this one. And I forever will root for this team to win. I am on the side of, hey, even if it's a top 5 or top 10 pick, it's a toss-up on whether or not your pick is going to do well. I think I just am a laissez-faire. Let's let the chips fall as they may, and let's win. Let's try to win. I know these players want to win. I know these coaches want to win. I want to win. What do you guys think? Lewis, I know you said if we win, we are not making the playoffs. We need to lose for a draft pick. I do understand that side of things. I get it, but there have just been so many times when we even had that top 5 pick and we still blew it. So I'm happier when we win, straight up. Now, there was the year that we drafted Jameis. We threw the last game against New Orleans, and that successfully supplanted, or whatever the word is, that cemented our number one pick, and we ended up getting Jameis because of it. So I can see either way. Andy, I missed the game. How would you sum it up? Andy, very frustrating. I don't know if you guys have seen that old Chris Farley sketch where they did a hidden camera. It was like a hidden camera sketch where they replaced his like coffee or whatever it was with some other brand than he asked for, and they came out and asked him how he was, and he's just like, "You son of a," and he starts trashing the place. And then they cut to an interview with him afterwards, and they're like, "How do you feel about that whole situation?" And Chris Farley just looks at the camera and just goes, "Angry." That's basically how this game has left me feeling, just so sloppy. 5 turnovers. Some of them were happenstance. Some of them were our fault. But it was a very frustrating game, which is the theme to this year. Timothy says, I'm ambivalent about winning or losing at this point. I'll watch because I'm a fan, but winning and losing have both neutral pros and cons. Hey, that's a very Switzerland way of thinking about it. I don't necessarily disagree with you. I will always root for this team to win. I will always root for this team to win, and I will always be sad and angry when they lose. So I am sad and angry because they lost today. They keep finding new ways to lose, and this is something that has happened over and over and over again. Rocco has pointed out 54 turnovers in 42 games, and I think that's referring to Jameis Winston's stats. That's a stat that's thrown out there by the people who are Jameis Winston haters, and that stat is not good. No, it's not great. And also his record's not great. Compare those stats to Peyton Manning's stats for his first 3 years as a quarterback, and they're actually better. So Jameis is what he is. He's going to turn over the ball a lot. We knew this when we drafted him, guys. He is what he is. But he has the potential to be a Brett Favre level quarterback where he's going to lose you some games, but by golly, he's going to win you some games that other quarterbacks cannot. So I'm not ready to give up on Jameis just yet. I do want to see him in a system that will play to his strengths, which is not what Dirk Koetter has been doing. Do I think Dirk should go? I still stand pat in my belief that he should stay unless we see the players give up on him, and this includes what we're not seeing behind the scenes. There was a report today, and I wanted to talk about this. There was a report today from Ian Rappaport that there was unrest between Jameis and Dirk, and that how Jameis was frustrated how he was handled both with his injury and also with how the play calling has gone, saying that the play calling was too predictable. Jenna Lane then tweeted that she had heard from other teams' assistants that they have said this is the most predictable offense they have faced. So maybe there's some validity to that. If that's the case, then yeah, maybe Dirk Koetter either A, should go, or he should give up play calling. I think either one should happen. So next week will be interesting because it's the John Gruden game. John Gruden will be in attendance. So do you guys want Gruden here? It's going to be awkward. It's going to be awkward on Monday at halftime, and I wish I would be there just to see how I really think fans are going to be chanting his name and calling for him, especially if the game goes south, which it probably will because it's against the Falcons. They're fighting for a playoff spot. They're a better team. So Amazement says Dirk doesn't trust Winston, that's why, which may be valid, but Winston, if that's the case, Winston is his quarterback, so he needs to suck it up, honestly. If he doesn't trust Winston, then there's lots of ways that you can call this game if you don't trust Winston. If Dirk really didn't trust Winston, then why is he calling all of these deep passes? Why is he calling all of these 7-step drops? I mean, that doesn't make sense. If Dirk doesn't trust Jameis, then that means that he is even worse of a play caller than we thought he was, honestly. So Andy says, I thought this might have been the year to push into the playoffs, but seeing how the season turned out and how hard the NFC is, it looks like a couple more years we will have to wait. The NFC is hard this year. That does not mean that they will be hard next year. The NFL, the parity of the NFL is is so prevalent that you just never know year to year how hard it will be next year, even if you compare it to this year. So, yep, it's tough this year. Yep, we're out of the playoffs. Yep, we never really stood a chance once we went on that losing streak. But that's just how it was. So going back to this game, let's talk about the positives. I have some MVPs that I wrote down. Number one, the rookies. Chris Godwin and O.J. Howard looked great this game, and you could see how much our offense moved with those guys being in the game plan. O.J. looked great, and Chris Godwin looked awesome. So, if we get rid of guys like Deshaun and we get rid of guys, unfortunately, like Cameron Brate, we've just saw a preview of how, honestly, this team can move without them. I mean, I know Deshaun was a part of it, but I think we're fine with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and O.J. Howard. And with Cameron Brate being on a contract here, I'm honestly wondering now if we let Cam go, which really saddens me. I love Cam Brate, and he's become a favorite target of Jameis Winston. But you saw with O.J. in there that he can also be a favorite target of Winston. So do you guys want Brate to be back? Amazement, you agree. OJ and linebackers looked good at least. They definitely did. The linebackers looked good. However, I would want to point out Quan Alexander, and I'll get back to him in a second, but Quan didn't look great in pass coverage. He looked great in run coverage, but he was not tackling well on the second level. He was trying to go for the strip instead of the tackle. He was biting hard on play fakes, and he was kind of erratic, and Quan has just not looked like himself this year. Another MVP, which is the MVP of the season, speaking of linebackers, is Levante David. He is amazing, and his talent, just like Gerald McCoy's, has been wasted yet again here in Tampa, and it's very frustrating. Levante was all over the place. And how about Leonard Wester catching the touchdown pass? That was pretty awesome. Always love seeing offensive linemen catch a touchdown pass. I was very disappointed that he and the O-line did not have a celebration ready. How awesome would it have been to see all of the big uglies get together and celebrate probably the only touchdown catch they will see for years to come, unless it just becomes a part of the offense. The last touchdown catch we saw was Donald Penn in 2013. So good on Leonard Wester. That was fun. And hey, how about that play call too? We've been bashing Dirk's play calling for a long time, and that was actually a great play call. So we see flashes, man. We see flashes. And so if we retain Dirk, I do see times when it's like, okay, there is still hope. Some of you are asking, or one of you are asking, Bucs Nation, who do you want us to pick in the draft? I actually do not follow the draft in college football very much, and the reason is because it's such a crapshoot. I will get into it towards the draft time, and there are just more people there are better people who are better at evaluating talent. Trevor Sikkema over at Pewter Report, and guys like that do a so much better job of evaluating talent than I do. So follow those guys. Don't ask me who I want. I want a pass rusher. I want secondary, and I want offensive line. So any of those, I'm sure we'll address all of those in the draft, and I really hope we pick the right guys. Who do you guys want to see us want to see us pick in the draft? I've heard Bradley Chubb's name thrown out there, and I've seen some of his tape, and he looks great. But, man, we've picked so many pass rushers over the last decade that have busted. And, and that's the reason I don't follow the draft all that much, because it's just hard to get hyped for a player when they just do nothing, And then the same goes for college about recruiting. I just cannot get excited about recruiting because you never know until they hit the grass. So, amazement on Riddick's second touchdown. They tried to get the strip and not the tackle. Absolutely. The defense actually played pretty well in spite of Gerald McCoy not being in here, which, is great on them. And that's what I said earlier, is that they had great heart in fighting there. But it looked like they gave up on that drive. I even wrote in my notes that it looked like the defense gave up. And I fully expected them to give up 2 or 3 more touchdowns after that. But then the offense scored right after that and put it back in, and all of a sudden the defense lit up and decided to start playing again. So funny how that works, right? What do you see in Dirk? I don't see anything. He did not say anything. You can just look in the chat. But with Dirk, I will not be surprised to see Dirk go. If we kept Dirk, I would want to see us. Honestly, I want to see here. If I'm in the ownership, I would take Dirk in and I would say, what are you going to do to fix this? And then listen. If he says, hey, I'm going to give up play calling, I'm going to fire some position coaches, and I really think we can get back on track, then if I am the owners, I go and talk to the players. I see what they think, what their opinion is. If they still hold him in high regard, do they still think that he can do something for this team? If all of that then falls into place and it seems positive, then I keep Dirk. And I make sure that he does not call plays this year, because again, there have been reports that it has been one of the most predictable offenses this year, and that cannot happen. So take that for what you will. I do not think that Dirk will stay. I think he will be let go. A question I'm going to ask, and that I will come back to you in a second here, is if Dirk is not here, who do you want? We talked a little bit about that last week. I've had some discussion with people over Twitter about who they wanted. I would love to hear what you guys think, who you want the next coach to be. Is it Dirk? It looks like Doug Martin won't be back, and do you think Peyton Barber can be a true number one running back? Here's the thing. I think that Peyton Barber can be a great running back, but the offensive line needs to be there. You look at teams like Dallas, obviously they had Ezekiel Elliott, and he's otherworldly, but they're fine because they have their offensive line. So if you have a serviceable running back behind a great line, then you don't need to draft them high. I think Peyton Barber can be serviceable if we address the offensive line. And I want us to address that first. God help me, if we draft a running back in the first round, I will be upset, because you have to build from the inside out. Offensive and defensive line are the number 1A and 1B priorities in this offseason. So, Siege the Way Bucs says, Matt Patricia. I would not mind Patricia. I would not... Well, I'll get to that in a second. I would not mind Patricia. It's taking another risk on yet another up-and-coming coordinator, which we've done with Raheem Morris, which we've done with Dirk Koetter, and that hasn't really paid off. Do we keep going the same route of the unprovens? Maybe, but if you remember, coordinators coming from New England have not really had a great track record. Josh McDaniels has tried it once and has failed. You remember back in the days of Charlie Weiss, Romeo Crennel. It seems to happen when you have a great team like New England come up, and they're great because of their head coach, and then the coordinators get head coaching jobs, and then they fail. So I would be hesitant on Matt Patricia. What I do like about him is he's a defensive mind, and he has really done great things with the New England defense this year. They started out terrible, and he adjusted, which is something this team can't do apparently, and has turned the Patriots defense, who has not much talent, he's turned them into pretty good defense. So Harbaugh might work. He might work, but he's not leaving Michigan. He's not leaving Michigan. That's his alma mater. He's got a lot of work to do there. He's not leaving Michigan. Adrian Go Bucks says, I would like Josh McDaniels or Jim Harbaugh or Sean Payton than John Gruden. Well, Sean Payton's not coming out because the Saints will be in the playoffs this year. They're not letting him go. Josh McDaniels. Okay, so Josh McDaniels, I've had some interesting conversations, and I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Josh McDaniels has already had one go-around at head coach, and it was not good. He drafted Tim Tebow in the first round, traded up to get him. That's not good. That's not great talent evaluation. And this is coming from a Florida fan. Tim Tebow was not a first-round talent, and that scares me. And another thing is, and if you guys read Pewter Report, Scott Reynolds actually did a great article on Josh McDaniels in favor of him, but something really scared me about what he wrote in that article, and that it's quotes from former players from Josh McDaniels when he was in Denver about how once times got tough, he did not know how to get the team back in it. So do you really think that, given this team's recent history, that you want a coach in here that doesn't know how to get a team back on track once times get tough? Now look at this year. Times have gotten tough, and no, we haven't gotten back on track, but they're still fighting. And I don't know, I would just be scared of it being another Raheem Morris, where he comes in, he's young, and he doesn't know how to run a team once times get tough. So I would be scared with Josh McDaniels. Now the positives of that is that he is a great offensive mind. Now, of course, he's had Tom Brady to work with in New England, and Tom Brady's going to make you look great. But Josh McDaniels has looked great as a coordinator in New England the past few years. So it will take a while to convince me about Josh McDaniels, but I don't know. I'm back and forth on him. So watch us get rid of Dirk and promote Mike Smith, Mr. Bucs Nation. Yeah, it's funny. There's Mr. Bucs Nation and Bucs Nation on here. Good to have both of you guys, by the way. That I think the city of Tampa would implode on itself if we did that, if we hired Mike Smith. I think Mike Smith is gone. I think it's one of the position coaches. Even if we keep Dirk, that's another thing. It's Mike Smith has to go. He has not been able to do anything with this defense. Jason Licht is another topic of conversation with people. I said this last week. I'm still a Jason Licht apologist. I think he's done a great job. Number one, managing the cap and putting the talent on the field, and the coaches have not gotten it done. And I don't blame that on the players too much. Obviously, the execution is not there, yes, but I do think that lies on the coaches more so than the players. If you remember before this season, we had a lot of high hopes. We all saw on paper the talent that this team has, and it has not happened. And I think that's the coach's fault. I do not think that's Jason Licht's fault. So I went over the MVPs of this game, by the way. I just wanted to real quick go over the LVPs. I mentioned Quan earlier. He did not look great in pass coverage. The offensive line in pass coverage, especially Evan Smith, who is olaying people, who's getting costly penalties. I do not know why we started him over Hawley. That was unforgivable, in my opinion. The secondary is crap, and the D-line is crap. It's the same old story, and these are the things that have to be addressed. Now, Bruce Arians, going back to the coaches, Bruce Arians has been brought up by Adrian. Getting up there in his health, I agree. Bruce Arians, I actually love Bruce Arians. I think he's had a lot of talent in Arizona, and they haven't gotten it done. I actually loved Arizona, and I thought they had the talent the last couple of years, and they haven't gotten it done. I don't know really enough about their team to say whether or not that's Bruce Arians' fault, but he made things exciting for a couple of years there in Arizona. So I don't know, maybe. That's another thing too that Adrian, good job bringing up Jason Licht. Like once you get rid of Jason Licht, who's out there? Who do you hire? Now everybody's solution in Tampa always is fire this person, fire that person, fire this person, fire that person, but they never think about who do you hire after that. And the Glazers have not shown us that they can hire the right people. So I don't know. I'm not all about this whole fire everyone and start over again, over and over again, just because things aren't working right. Now, obviously, if you don't think the guy's going to work, then why keep him here? But that's the thing, is that I just do not think we're giving people enough time. Jason Licht has had a lot of time, but again, with the cap and with the talent he's put on the field, he's done a good enough job. Yes, he had the Aguayo pick. Yes, he's had some pretty bad busts. But, I mean, look at, ASJ is another person that people bring up for Jason Licht. How could he know that he was just going to be a turd and have this problem? I mean, ASJ, you see him over in New York, and he's doing fine. So it's just unfortunate that he didn't have it upstairs. So anyway, I would love to see the comparisons of Jason Licht to other GMs. But a lot of guys around the league knows this team is underachieving. So if Winston plays better, it will attract a head coach. That's true. I think people know who Jameis is at this point. I think head coaches know who Jameis is, at least ones that have been following, especially Gruden. Gruden has been following this. He's fired up about Jameis. I do think Gruden people don't want him back because he has been out of football, but he has been closely following football. So I think he's fine. I think he's been studying film this entire 10 years as if he's been coaching. I think he he's been working as if he's been a head coach with the luxury of not being a head coach. So actually, if Gruden got hired, I actually would be excited about it. I never wanted him fired in the first place, but he's actually at the top of my list, honestly, and I don't know why I feel embarrassed saying that, but I think it's just because I love Gruden, never wanted him fired. I know that the talent on the field was not good enough for him. I know that Bruce Allen, well, let's rewind back with John Gruden's time in Tampa. John Gruden got here because we traded away 2 first-round picks. So already that was setting him up for failure for the future. And then Rich McKay, as great as he was, drafting Hall of Famers, set us up for a terrible salary cap situation. And so once he left and Bruce Allen came in, Bruce Allen made things worse by, number one, it being worse at talent evaluation than Rich McKay, but then also being terrible at cap management. We had to get rid of all of our stars because of Rich McKay's cap management, and then just drafted horrible people and just made terrible decisions. And then Mark Dominic came in, and he was slightly better, but still just talent was not there. And now here's Jason Licht, who has done a fantastic job with salary cap and has done a good job with talent evaluation. So that's why I want to hold on to him. Let's see. Licht has been good in the draft. It's his ignorance of the lines that will likely do him. I do agree. Zach, that's a great point. Licht has not built from the inside out. I will say he has drafted offensive line almost every year, but it's been late rounds, and he has taken gambles with free agents that have not worked. That's probably the biggest knock against Jason Licht, is his inability to pick up the right free agents. So, offense. I agree with you guys. He has messed up the O-line and D-line. I'm censoring some, again, Rocco censoring some of your choice words, but who else is out there that will do a better job? Is there somebody? Yeah, I don't know. But remember, if you fire somebody, you have to hire somebody. And do you really trust the Glazers to hire somebody better than Jason Licht? Given their track record, I don't know. So I think I'm going to wrap things up here, guys. Thanks again for joining me. I am holed away in once again at my wife's university that she goes to, and taking advantage of the better internet in the North Georgia mountains. Got a lot of snow this week, and it's very cold outside, so I'm glad I was able to come inside. Thanks again for joining, guys, and continue the conversation. Hit me up on Twitter at @theplayreaction. I'd love to keep talking about it with you guys, hearing your thoughts, your feelings, and thanks for coming and commiserating with me. This has not been a fun year, and being able to come in and talk things out has actually helped me deal with the losses. I'm not showing a whole lot of emotion in these. It's my nature to bring things back down, but believe me, I'm hurting just as much as you guys. I'm as angry as much as you guys are, and I just hope better days are ahead. And hopefully I can continue on, not only in the coming weeks, but also next year, and things will be brighter and better. So subscribe here on this channel. I will do more Bucs things. I will do more studio videos. Check out my other videos as well. And there will be more to come just when I can find the time and when I can find the resources. This channel isn't dying. Continue to support the Bucs. Check out Reddit, the Bucs subreddit. There's some great conversation going on in there. And until next time, go Bucs. See ya. I'm going to awkwardly sit here until it stops.